Right, let me get that pacifier in place. Anyway, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another scene set in Odessa of Dark Crusade Season 2.
Pout. He makes me do this.
No. It is another night in Odessa, as the sun has fallen and the dead have risen once more. And I think it's fair to say that Eirene qualifies as incredibly dead, both on the outside and the inside.
Why? Pesky little. No.
Alright, yeah. Put the pacifier back in.
You muted me!
Anyway, the scene begins with Eirene rising from her bedchambers, being dressed by her small legion of servants who do as she wishes, and heading out briefly for the night to feed, to hunt and prey upon the living for sustenance. And tonight is a good haul for her. There's a very, shall we say, filling evening, as her domain is quite expansive, allows her to hunt quite freely. But when she returns, she sees someone at the gates to her noble home, or her parents' home, rather, waiting for her. It is a fairly wiry-looking man, fairly short, small life, very fairly lightly dressed. They have they don't wear they're not wearing anything that would designate them as noble. In fact, they look fairly middle class. They're wearing a simple tunic with a belt. They have a small they have a small set of satchels around their waist, and a small bag tied around their shoulder, or strapped around their shoulder, rather. And he walks up to you and says, Are you Lady Julia Rebellion, miss?
The curtsy and the confirmation. Yes, I am. Why, who's asking after me?
Not information I'm privy to, my lady, but I have a letter here designated for your hands only.
I see. Thank you.
He pulls a letter out of his bag. Actually, no, it won't be out of his bag because this is a special letter. So it's a satchel. He pulls a letter out of his satchel.
Oh my.
You see an envelope. Looks like you can literally see the rich texture on it. You don't even have to feel it. You know that when you go to touch it, you can tell it has that sort of fairly thick, high quality paper feeling. With wax seal. but no no coat of arms or insignia that designates the seal. It's actually a plain wax seal. The only, well, I say it doesn't have an insignia. It doesn't have any identifiable insignia in the sense that it's not like a clan insignia or a noble coat of arms. It's just a generic crown insignia.
Okay.
And he hands it to you.
Eirene will take it. We'll try and find him a couple of like copper pieces or maybe a single silver thing as like a tip.
Yep. Thank you, milady. Have a good evening. And he runs off before you actually have a chance to give him anything.
Oh, okay. Eirene will head inside to a room that is usually a little more sanity, and we'll open letter.
The letter reads, to be ever gracious Lady Julia Orbelian of House Orbelian.
Okay, yes. That's all it reads? Because that's
No.
not a lot. Oh,
I'm
okay.
just pausing for dramatization.
Dramatic effect.
For dramatic
Oh,
effect.
I
Kayla, keep
forgot
you on
your.
your toes.
Yeah, your
It's
dramatic
more
effects are extremely dramatic.
my very long dramatic effect pauses.
Very long, yes. Okay.
Um,
This is fine. All is fine.
we have noticed your ever expanding prestige among the circles that we so frequent, and would like to extend an offer for you to join one of our local gatherings this evening. It, in brackets, there is a time and a location.
Okay.
We would vastly prefer that this offer not be extended to any of your many loyal allies. And that you would approach us with the same good faith that we approach you. We hope to see you in the coming hours, and hopefully, if all goes well, in the many nights to come.
Hmm. Hmm. So how much time does she have before this meeting, kind of, before she's expected at some sort of non-disclosed location?
She has a couple hours.
Okay. Yeah. Someone being polite. Well, you better be polite back. I don't know. So Irene will call in her nursemaid slash ghoul.
Actually, one thing I should know. I did make a mistake when I read that off. Wouldn't be an extended offer to join one of our local meets. It would be to join our circle.
Okay. Yeah, Irene will call in her. Will call for her nursemaid woman, nun, woman, and will ask
Do you
her.
mean this woman?
No.
No, no. But she just wants to help.
I'm sure she does.
Yeah. Why don't you want to let her help, Eirene? What's wrong with you? She just cares about you.
Are you done?
Yes.
Good. So she will call in for the oldest school that she has, that is her former nursemaid, and will ask her that it should, not return before the dawn, that the nursemaid will go to Timoran and go and tell Ulrich that Irene received a letter, and it's basically this, that she didn't return last night. But she will
Wait,
also
sorry.
say
What about Auric? Sorry.
that she will basically she will tell the ghoul that if Irene doesn't show up by dawn, that she has to go tell Ulrich that Irene is gone.
Okay.
Something like that, the drill. And but she'll also kind of ensure her ghoul that, like, no, it's probably not necessary, but you can't be too careful. I presume it won't be necessary.
Hopefully.
Sure of it. Yeah, I guess Irene will go to location. Location.
You head to the location. The location is an area of Injustinopolis. It's not very far away from you.
Yay. Okay.
The location itself is a mosque that is vastly overshadowed by the mount itself. This mosque sits more along the southernmost, about the center of Justinopolis, actually, kind of at the base of the mount, the base of the hill, where the actual massive super mosque, as it were, is at the top of. This one sits at the bottom, in its shadow, near the center of the district. It has 4 rather ornate, well-crafted spires that mark its boundaries. has a small set of steps that lead up into the mosque. And it stands at, and the mosque itself stands at about 2 stories.
Okay. Well, if that's the appointed location, then Eirene will go in.
And you enter the mosque.
Yes.
Have you walked or taken a carriage?
If it's not too far, she would have probably walked.
You could walk this.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very reasonable distance to walk.
Okay. Then yeah, she would have probably walked because walking is good exercise, you know. Yeah.
I mean, it's not like your muscles need it, but I understand.
No, but yeah, you know, it's good for someone with her health conditions. I'm sure her brothers and sisters agree with that.
Yeah. Walk up the steps and into the mosque.
Mm-hmm.
Its doors are closed.
Okay, are they like locked?
Do you go to check?
She would probably, yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, then she'll wait.
Just stand there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You wait about a minute, and you will hear a distinctive and rather loud clicking of a rather large lock. Um, being undone.
Okay.
And the doors, or rather a door,
Mm-hmm.
will will open for you.
Curtsy.
You just curtsy outside the mosque, or do you actually go
I
inside?
mean, if she sees a face, then she will curtsy. If she doesn't, she will enter and then
It's
curtsy.
like 2 large sets of doors, so if a
Mhm.
person's pulling it back for you, you probably actually wouldn't see them until you entered.
Okay, then enter, then curtsy.
Okay. You see the doors open. You see a large yet indistinct man opening the door for you.
Mm-hmm.
And standing off to his side as the door opens fully, at his side stands a very, very familiar face.
No.
Is this man?
Huh.
Oh, polite as always, Mr. Shadid Mouse.
Sir Shadid, how do you do?
Oh, absolutely fantastic, Lady Eirene. It's been such a long time. Well, actually it hasn't, but I can never have enough chatter with you.
You flatter me. It has indeed not been as long as some of the other pauses we've had of each other's company, but it is good to see you again.
Oh, yes. I was so excited when I heard you've been invited. It's going to be such an interesting conversation. You're in for quite the revelation.
I'm afraid I am not aware of what I am invited to, but it is good to see that you are here.
That is part of the whole process. It should be explained soon enough.
Well, you will make me feel less alone in the situation. So I am happy.
Oh, likewise, Lady Irene. It's good to have a face as fresh as mine in our local meetings.
Indeed. So, are you my guide for this evening?
You could say that. I'm here to introduce you.
I see.
I was deemed, I would say, the most familiar to you. And that's such the one. He pauses. Most able to introduce you to our little circle.
All right. Well, I can barely contain my enthusiasm.
I can see.
So, please, Sir Guide, lead the way.
Oh, I am no sir, but you flatter me so. He he'll kind of step to the main to the kind of center of where. Right this way, my lady.
She will take his arm, which I'm sure he'll offer.
Oh yeah, he totally does.
I was gonna say, and not Irene will make it look like he
As if
completely offered.
as if Omar Shadid would like, forget doing that. Never. This is Omar Shadid we're talking about.
I mean, yes.
I'm not the only familiar face you'll be seeing, so you shouldn't feel too nervous. We have faces.
Well,
We have people of all shapes and sizes on our little group.
I see. And
Reserved to only the most successful amongst the mortal populace, at least.
I see. And what kind of group is this, if I may ask?
Well, many of us would fashion us as dark, eerie conspirators looking to manipulate the city, but I prefer to see us as guides and shepherds looking to direct the city's future in a brighter direction.
I was going to say, I hardly count myself amongst the manipulators or schemers within the city.
Oh, no. And many of us are not. I do not consider myself a schemer, but I am quite successful in my respective field of business, and as such, I was chosen just a year ago as the newest member of this little community.
I see.
But apparently it's been around for a few decades now. Ever
Oh,
since the war tore out of control and the city's entered an unstable period, we are trying to find ways to exert some stability over the city. And this has always been a rough place to live. We are trying to set things right. And hopefully, with your assistance, we shall be able to finally do so.
I don't see how I could be of much use, but I'm more than
Well,
willing to hear.
you are, I think you would be very, very useful. You are a very successful young lady, whether you want to admit it or not.
You flatter me again, says Shadid.
I can do nothing but return the favor. But yes, right this way. He kind of guides you down the foyer and up a flight of stairs at the end.
Okay. Yep, Eirene will follow. Kind of registering, like if there's anything specific that she sees or any, anything that would give away like the host for this evening or something like that. But
No, it's a fairly plain-looking mosque, despite its it's a nice-looking mosque. It has its exterior is quite noteworthy, but its interior is a bit less noteworthy. But still well looked after. Still definitely one of the more affluent places of worship in the city. Definitely upper crust, but not overtly distinctive.
Okay.
As you walk up, Al-Mashidi just says, yes, we noticed you are quite successful amongst the aristocracy of the city. We have one of those in our group as well, but you can never be too. You can never play it too safe.
I only did what felt right.
Ooh, and right you were. The old Lord of Rebellion was a very, very cool man. But I suppose you could say that about most nobles, most people.
I suppose most of us have a darker side, had we?
Well, doubly so for us, but yes.
Indeed.
Obviously, I have always been in contact and have the utmost respect for my aristocratic patrons, but...
And here I was afraid you would say your darker side.
No, but I must say my darker side does include an element of distaste for their politics. It can make conducting business more than difficult at times. Particularly with when the curfew occurred. Fortunately, I had friends in high enough places to grant me a reprieve, but I do feel very sorry for all of my competitors. I know that might be surprising to hear me say, but I mean it. You cannot have good business without good competition.
I'm not at all surprised. I can only imagine that you must be sad to have seen Sir Gufran leave the city then.
Oh, it was a tragedy. He was one of a few among us honestly working to get something done. If he had stayed a bit longer, I could have imagined him joining us as well. But we are not a community that discriminates based on age, so it is much more, how do you say, meritocratic.
I see.
And you, of course, are happy. Even better. A cherry on top of a absolutely beautiful cake.
Are you comparing me to a product of food? Says Shadid.
How much do you consider this? I suppose I am. It makes me wonder what food I would be.
I suppose all of us would be something unreachable, since we cannot reach it anymore.
What food is unreachable?
Hmm?
We must be delicious.
Oh, thank you so much for that.
Anytime, anytime.
You
I
are a
live
gift
to
to the world.
entertain.
You are such a gift. I am so happy that I have met you.
Well, I hope you won't be leaving me anytime soon.
Mhm.
In any case, we are here. There is no need for formal introductions. I believe you shall know most of those present, and several of them, like yourself, are members of the court.
I see.
So I hope this does not come as too much of a revelation or a shock to you.
Well, we shall see. She'll squeeze Omar's arm a little tighter.
He'll pat your shoulder with his free arm. No need for concern. I'm sure you'll... I was about to say something that among our kind could be construed as remarkably rude, so I shall not say it. But needless to say, I think you shall fit in just fine. In any case, he opens the door and reveals a table of 6 Cainites. They'll stand for you. First one is this man.
Surprise, surprise.
Second one is this woman.
Ah,
Oh, it's a table of 5 people, sorry.
okay.
And then is the rest of the group.
Oh, Jeebus.
Omar Shadid, Giles, Gar Aurelia Crassus, Primogen, well, Giles being the new keeper, and Lady Astor, a Cappadocian ancilla and the child of the current Primogen.
Okay, well, I mean, Eirene is like sort of overwhelmed. Yeah, I know. I mean, I'm the youngest one, I think, in the entire fucking game at this point. Since Eirene is like a year and a half. She will curtsy deep, very deep, very
Very
long, kind of remaining in that position. Because they're like Prince Seneschal, rest. Fuck. Yeah, staying down, boy, down. Down like a bad beaten puppy.
Aww. Irene is very much a bad beaten puppy.
I mean, she's not, but this is like, oh, fuck. Fuck me luck.
Good evening, my heartbeat. Please take a seat. I'm sure you have a few questions.
Irene will get up, says, thank you, my prince, and we'll sit down.
The prince looks like she's about to say something and says, maybe better for your clanmate to explain, I believe. He's more well equipped than I to explain the situation to you. Yeah, thank you, my prince. Yes. The Eirene.
My permission. Seneschal.
I appreciate your formal manner of tone, but Such gestures are unnecessary within this particular circle. We are an organization of peers. As I'm sure you're aware, this particular gathering of Cainites appears somewhat unusual, to say the least. A vast smattering of generations and age. This particular group does not have a name. It doesn't need one. What it is an organization of peers, well connected in areas both mortal and Cainite. All bound by a single loyalty towards the betterment of the domain itself.
I see.
This group has some history. However, it began with myself. A few months after your sire turned the city over to Prince Benedictus. Back then, and frankly, not too dissimilar as to now, the city was in a state of disrepair and disrepute. An unacceptable state for a Cainite domain, no less the capital domain of an entire region to be in. So this circle of peers was founded to aid in the city's direction and growth, to assist in its maintaining of order and stability. If I were to put a metaphor to it, it would to be the eye of the storm that is the domain. The one center of focus and certainty that can be looked to when the domain is undergoing crises and various other afflictions. Of course, in order for such stability and prosperity to be expanded upon and maintained, we reach out to individuals who show a particular degree of success or talent within their particular pursuits. As I'm sure Omar Shadid has noted to you, your very great blood nephew. He gives a slight smile. We have been surveying your particular movements within the circles of the city's local aristocracy. And your pursuits in regards to the city's greater mysteries. We have seen your success in both of these areas. And as such, we have deemed you fit to accompany us as peers in discussions on how to direct and shepherd the city towards a more fruitful state of being moving forward. If you, of course, wish to accept. But before you answer, are there any other questions you would wish to ask? I'm sure this is very much something for you to take in and process.
Indeed, my Primogen. Well, a couple of questions I do have. First and foremost, probably, if I choose to not enter your circle of particular friends here at this table, what would happen to me?
Simply put, you would forget our correspondences and you would continue with your own life as you were before.
I see. Irene does not look surprised at all.
If you are concerned that your life is in any way at risk, we're all bound by loyalty to the domain, and this extends to the traditions of those who rule it.
Sir, the former prince, was he part of this group?
No, he took a very hands-off approach.
I thought
In the end, this resulted in his destruction at the hands of forces that he could not hope to stop or destroy alone.
I agree. Sorry, please.
That has become something of a tertiary purpose of this group. In that manner, it is not too dissimilar to a coterie, although I do not believe any one of us interprets it as such.
I see. Why me? Why not people who are more qualified, possibly, like the sheriff or some of his hounds or the former keeper of Elysium? Or Lady Madeline? Or Lady Margot?
You may struggle to believe this, Lady Eirene, but none have been quite as successful within the pursuit of aristocratic power as yourself within the city. If you wish to If at any time you sought to snuff out the power that many of these Cainites possessed, and by that I mean the ones you mentioned, you could have likely done so without too much effort.
Why would I want this?
It is a hypothetical. I'm not saying you would.
I see.
Of course, the power that various Cainites possess within the city is something that this circle does note and survey, and at times work to either aid or hinder, depending on their loyalty and trustworthiness.
I see. But is it just for my sway over the aristocracy that you requested my presence here?
It is one of the most significant factors, but it is not the only one.
I see.
Had you have been less active within city politics, or less forward in your pursuits of various problems and afflictions the city was suffering from, you would likely not be here. But yes, your control over the aristocracy plays a significant uh, role in as to why you are here.
Irene's just gonna quickly glance over at Lady Astor because I believe she was the other one with like a lot of like double influence. Seeing how she's reacting to all this.
She seems fairly sedate, to be honest. She's she doesn't have the sort of sharpness in her eye that you see her normally have at court. No, it's a bit more. She's a bit more calmer here, a bit more subdued.
Okay.
She doesn't seem too bothered. She seems to be weighing you, though. She's giving you that very judging look. You know, not judgmental, not like you're not. Why is this person here? Just more like they're trying to weigh you up.
Mm-hmm. So your goal is stabilization of the city. How do you plan to reach this? What are your targets?
Seneschal kind of gently places his hands on the table. And the prince actually speaks up. Eirene, how much do you know of the city's history?
The basics, not much more. My sire, of course, told me about him stepping up to become a baron here and then leaving the city. I've heard something happened and people disappeared.
A long time ago, yes. whatever did such a thing has not shown any sign of invoking such an atrocity again. But before its residents disappeared, and not too soon after Auric claimed this city as a barony, the city used to be a part of something much greater than itself. I'm sure you have heard of it. It was known as the Dream.
Yes.
We seek to reinstall the values and success of the Dream within the city of Odessa. With Constantinople fallen, to the followers of Cainite heresy, false to individuals such as us, those who believe in concepts greater than our own success, yet possessed of the will and the talent to reach it, to bring back the knights of an enlightened society. How much do you know about the Dream? I do understand that you are somewhat young and never had the opportunity to visit a proper domain of the Dream, to see its ideas and values in action.
No, you're right. I do not have the age required to have visited Constantinople in its glory days, or at all, I must say. But I think I've gotten to experience some of its ideals, its dreams, its through the teachings of Prince Ulrich of Timiran. It must be a poor substitute for the real thing, I'm sure, but
It is, but it is an honest attempt. Ulrich, much like ourselves, believed in the Dream's idea that we can be more than simple predators and power brokers. That our condition, while it is fraught with many perils and dangers, affords us a struggle to a much higher and greater state of being. that we might be able to not only shepherd our society, but mortal society to a more higher-minded state, a more culturally, philosophically, and technologically developed society.
And if I may ask and interrupt, I do apologize. But how about practically more evolved? I I understand what you're saying, and what I've heard from you and what I've heard from my sire through his teachings, I very much agree with. And it has been something that I have kept in mind with everything that I've done so far within Odessa, within, well, my life so far, ever since I've learned about this. Um, I hear a lot of good things when it comes to like philosophical, like ideals, ideas, literal dreams that come to life, but I miss a little bit the more practical attempts to it, the actually helping the poor to get food and clothing and shelter, especially after the plague. There have been so many places that have been abandoned, yet people are homeless and live cropped up in churches or in poorhouses or on the streets, making them more vulnerable for violence, weather, accidents, diseases, cults. I miss help in the sense of medicine for those who need it, the more practical sense of the philosophical dreams.
The more grounded aspects of the dream, I believe you're
Yes.
asking. Well, under the dream's auspices, there would be no poor or sick at all would be catered to.
Just saying that is one thing, but actually helping them a second. I have been working in Riverside to help get these people in better living conditions. I've, of course, I did not know of the existence of this group, but I've seen fairly few Cainites, if any, working, attempting to get the city into a better state of being for. I mean, we can say that a dream begins with an idea that has to spread out, but people are being hungry, sick, scared, and poor. They don't think about equality. Um, they don't think about fairness. They just think about survival. We saw this when, even in our kind, when the curfew was in place, those who did not have the luxury of a big domain or even a small one at that started breaking our laws, breaking our traditions, simply because they were hungry and needed food. That was the moment we as a group could have helped opening up our literally our homes to our own people, helping them. Yet we did not. How far is this group? How productive is this group? How
I'd like to
practical
note,
is this group?
in regards to the curfew, we had deliberately stayed our hand on that particular issue. This is in part because we saw the benefits and disadvantages of invoking either option. For example, invoking the curfew led to struggles amongst our kind. It is true. I don't believe anyone here would deny such a thing. But as a result of that particular sacrifice that was made, it has enabled an entire district to be rebuilt. It has led to the reinvigoration of an otherwise ailing city under the assault of an underhanded and cruel act of war by an entirely selfish being. Had we intervened and worked to prevent the curfew, it is true we, as Cainites, would have been better off, particularly those of us who did not have the safety net of a domain or herd, which I should note any sensible Cainite should be building, regardless of who they are. But it would not have helped the domain in the long run. It would not have helped the mortals rebuild. It would have increased and incensed crime and violence. It would have destabilized city government. It would have created only more problems in the future. Of course, this is my personal perspective. I believe Giles here is in agreement with you, Eirene. And your view is not without merit. But ultimately, that was the course of action we decided upon, to not interfere and to allow the city and the rest of the Cainite populace to make this decision for themselves. After all, while we exist to guide society, we do not exist to force it down directions it is entirely unwilling to go or unable to go. I'm not here to usurp control. Or rob the city or its populace of its agency. If I recall, there were many hands involved in the invocation of the curfew. Much of it came down to Cainite interference in invoking it. Ironic that the city came to, well, the Cainite populace came to agree with my position. In a sense, quite selfless of them.
Selflessness for people who can afford to pay that price is different.
Very true.
I'm not claiming that you were either right or wrong. I would not know.
But this is why you are here, Eirene, to provide this more personal, grounded perspective that many of us, as you can see, are lacking in. Many of us, particularly myself, are quite removed from events on the ground. You have placed yourself firmly in the center of said events. This affords you an angle that I and many of us here do not have. This is a quality and another reason as to why you are here.
I see.
But I have not answered your question. If I should ask for specifics, as I believe there is some degree of miscommunication. You wish to know what we would do. You wish to know how effective this group is, yes? In tackling these problems.
I think so, yes.
If we were to leverage the full extent of our collective power, I would say that we could safely resolve any one problem, crisis, issue that you or any one of us had within this city within the period of a night. If we truly wished, we could usurp the regency of the city and replace it with another. We could raise the peasant to a position of highest nobility and cause the downfall of a noble of equal power. We could decide the fate of any business within the city. Dramatically alter crime. Not end, but mitigate the effects of poverty. And of course, reconstruct the entire city from top to bottom, as you have already witnessed to an extent. Besides, reconstruction post-curfew is not a coincidence.
Of course.
But we also work to be unseen.
These are mostly mortal problems that you talk of.
Mortals are a part of our domain. They make up most of it.
Of course. And I can understand how, although I do not know all of your qualities, I can understand how a group such as this can change the city overnight. But what do you do about a war with a neighboring city, a Cainite war with a neighboring city? What do you do with a infernalist that's been haunting the streets of the city, or a demon? Are these also topics that you work with, that you try to deal with, or are these things that you leave to the rest of the court?
Most of these issues we leave to the rest of court. Of course, if we sought to resolve all these issues on our own, what need would there be for a sheriff? We trust other members of the court to do their job, and in turn reward them for doing so.
Of course. I was merely wondering where the interest of this group lies.
You must understand, we are not wholly or even significantly focused on mortal issues. The dream, of course, is a Cainite construction.
Mm-hmm.
And it focuses on the possibility of Cainites.
Of course.
It is just so often that these possibilities ripple out into mortal society. and we have an obligation to them.
I agree.
But while the dream ties itself to the affairs of mortals, it was founded on the premise of Cainite enlightenment as opposed to mortal enlightenment.
Yes.
How we may rise above our beasts and our curses.
Mm-hmm.
Not just in the mundane sense of suppression and self-control, but in more experimental methods. And in how one can reach the ever-elusive state of Golconda. It is said that many writings were archived by the triumvirate that have yet to be discovered within the vaults of the Hagia Sophia.
I don't think Irene has ever heard of Golconda before. So
No, that's a weird term.
kind
She's
of,
like, what the fuck is
thinking.
Golconda?
Yeah, she's like, file under Ask Ulrich later.
Fall under Ask Ulrich. It's like you just have a little folder in your head going, Ask Ulrich.
Oh yeah.
It's just like it's like, what is Golconda? Question mark dot text.
Mm-hmm.
The nature of a dream is multifaceted and extremely broad. I won't go into its full depth on this evening, and honestly, it is a matter of discussion. It's not necessarily my purpose here to teach you precisely what that means. Half the purpose of the dream is to see how you interpret it for yourself. The dream was constructed out of the beliefs of Ventura Torridor and Tismisi. You can see how these result in wildly different interpretations.
Yes.
And ideas. The goal remains the same. Our kind's betterment, and in turn, the betterment of mortal society. At least, that is how Venture would put it. I believe Giles could put it in a far more warm and all-encompassing fashion than I ever could.
I would be very interested in hearing all of your interpretations, if you would be willing to share them at some point. Of course, not now. I do understand that, my prince.
That is entirely contingent upon
Yes.
your choice.
Well, I find it hard to see myself even considering most of you, my peers. You are all far older, far wiser, and far stronger than I am.
With due respect, I believe I am only slightly older than you, and I am certainly not as powerful. That I can guarantee. I have seen what you are capable of, Lady Eirene. You are significantly more dangerous than I am.
That is not my intention at all, especially, but the wisdom you hold is, well, far exceeds my own. I also know that there have been several occasions in my less than 2 years as a Cainite in which I have not conducted myself admirably. I hmm, I do feel honored and I would gladly accept the offer here. But I find it hard to believe that no matter how successful, and she'll use like the air quotes things on the word successful, I am. I find it hard that any of you would accept someone of barely 2 years old in your midst and not see that as a very grave insult to yourself and your peers.
And yet here we are. Believe it or not, that is the reality of the situation, Eirene. Perhaps the circumstances were different. Maybe you would be correct, but Constantinople has fallen. With it, Michael and his dream. With that, Michael and his dream.
Yes.
We can ill afford to be choosy about who we accept into our midst. Not when it comes to age.
And what about trust, my prince?
Well, in spite of that one very specific error that I'm sure we're all aware of, I trust that you will follow your beliefs.
Indeed. When it comes to that error, because yes, that is indeed what I'm talking about, I if such a situation were to occur again, and I mean the exact same situations with all the same parameters, in that case, my actions would be almost the same. I understand how I politically erred by ignoring your commands. But as you said, I would follow my intuition.
It has generally led you quite well. In that particular situation, it did not. But it also appeared as if you're arguing with yourself in that instant.
Yes. I did not want to disobey you, so I did as you asked.
What is your attachment to the Wishing Woman?
I
After all,
understand her.
this.
Sorry, please finish your question.
I was just going to say, it's not as if you owe her any personal loyalty.
I understand her point of view and in a certain way respect that. It is not the first, although it was the first Cainite that I heard speaking like that, but it was not the first time I heard people speaking out against our society. As Irene's hand would just kind of touch the crucifix. Where, while I think her methods are wrong, I think her theories are not necessarily wrong entirely. Although a bit grand. What she's trying to achieve, I get that. In this particular case, the reason why I stopped and tried to stop the entire combat was because I had a feeling that she was there to help us. There was no other reason for her to be there. And if she had wanted to attack us, she would not have waited. There wouldn't have been no point. And she's not someone who would take joy out of killing and would not have waited to increase the pleasure for her in it. Would have been no point in that. So she would have attacked straight away and have it be over with as soon as possible. Therefore, she was not there to attack, and us hearing her out would not be a bad idea per se, where us attacking her would mean a lot of us get killed, and that would leave our city even more vulnerable than it already was. Just had the feeling we should listen to her. It would do us less harm than us attacking her.
That is something that can be discussed. Again, contingent upon your decision.
Yes, I erred, and I do apologize for that, and I accepted my punishment in that.
Then, if I may ask, what would your decision be?
If exactly the same situation would occur again?
No, in regards to our offer to you.
Here and now.
She nods.
I think what you all want and what I want, what I'm trying to do, is mostly similar. I would be happy to accept a place amongst you if you were willing to have me.
Excellent. Then we will be able to discuss further. Needless to say, it goes without saying, this organization's existence is to remain strictly confidential.
Does my sire know of this organization? Or do I keep it from him as well?
He is unaware. For the moment.
I see. And I understand.
I would love to discuss more, but I think we have delivered unto you enough for tonight. We can discuss more of our ideas on how to move the city forward at a different time.
Of course. I thank you for your invitation. With your permission, I would take my leave.
Of course, Mr. Shadid, if you will.
Curtsy.
Mr. Shadid, everybody will stand for you. Mr. Shadid will remove himself from his table, from his chair, and will head towards you and gift you his arm.
Yep. Eirene will get up from the curtsy and will take his arm.
Oh, you did wonderfully.
I hope so.
No, they love you. I am certain of it.
Well, if you have confidence enough for the both of us.
I do. How could I ever not have confidence in you, Lady Eirene?
It's not that hard. Plenty of people in the city manage it. There's a small smile there.
Then allow me to act in stark defiance. Anyways, I hope you have a pleasant evening, and I hope to see you at the next gathering. The Biz Clan La Sombra has made itself a plurality in this circle.
Indeed. I am sure our Primogen must be proud.
Very, very. But yes, he opens it. Well, the door's open for you.
Mm-hmm. Have a pleasant night, said he.
You as well, Lady Eirene.
And into the night we go.
As the scene comes to a quiet close of this rather large revelation. Thank you, players, for playing. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you all next time.